Welcome back to this overview of FF&EZ-Design. In this segment, I will begin introducing the editing screens and some of the most useful functions. A full description of the screens and their capabilities can be found in the online help system. The screens break down into two types: general resource lists consisting of the vendor, library, clients, and project lists, and the project resource lists consisting of the areas, rooms, objects, and specification lists that are part of a specific project. We'll cover the general resource list in this segment. Let's get started by returning to the vendor screen. In FF&EZ, a vendor is a combination of a manufacturer and the manufacturer's representative. This means that you may add more than one instance of the same manufacturer, depending on whether you work with local reps and whether there are multiple variations for that manufacturer. You can do this by cloning an original vendor and making changes as needed, or just entering them manually. In addition to the general information, FF&EZ can save email and website addresses, which turn into live links when you fill them in. Vendors can have a default discount expressed in percentage of catalog price. That's automatically applied to specs that you write. On the right side of the screen is a main address and three optional addresses. These can override it for specific purposes. They are an alternate shipping address, an alternate billing address, and an alternate payment address. The shipping address, used when ordered items must be shipped to a vendor instead of the project site, is the most used. The others are more often part of purchasing management work in FF&EZ-Design purchasing version. The vendor list is one of the screens that has import and export functions. In addition to general exports of your vendor list, FF&EZ can be used to send a master vendor list update to an employee, such as a regional salesperson, using a standalone copy of the program. Now let's look at the Specifications Library. Although you may think that the library would be the place to store specifications for use in many projects, in practice the ability to import specs from other projects is the most common way to reuse existing specs. This includes old projects in which a specification was first used, and prototype projects built to satisfy specific franchise requirements. There are two ways to use the library. The first is when your firm maintains a catalog of items that you sell as part of FF&E contracts. The key to doing this successfully is having a librarian charged with keeping this information up to date. The library can be exported to people in the field who have copies of FF&EZ, just like the vendor list. The other use is to create prototype specifications. A prototype specification can be anything you want, but the basic concept is to create a spec that is preloaded with specification requirements or boilerplate notes that are typical of certain product types. A library specification becomes a prototype by putting a check in the Use as Prototype template field. A prototype spec can also be marked as the default specification for placeholder specs that you create. We'll return to this subject in the third segment of this introduction. The data fields in the library are the same as those used in the specifications list screen, which we will cover later in this segment. One difference is that there is no spec ID in the library. The spec ID is a project-specific ID that may mean something different in each project. In the library, a specification is defined as a unique combination of vendor ID and catalog or model number. Let's move on to the client screen. This contains the contact and address information for each client. Clients can have any number of projects in the system, and each project will pull client information from this screen automatically. On the right side of the screen, you will see the client's main address and an optional shipping address. The main address is the default billing and shipping address for all of the client's projects, unless the shipping address is activated. However, each project also has an optional shipping address, and this would be used when a client has multiple projects. The last of the major resource screens is the project list. When you display this screen, you'll see all of the setup information for the highlighted project. On the left side are the general descriptive fields, including optional contacts for the project. Please note that the location field is not meant to be used as an address, since the official project addresses are set either to the right or on the client screen. The location field is meant to be used as part of the printed project title block. So if the project title was Smith Garden Hotel, the location might be Los Angeles Airport or Memphis East. At the bottom left of the data is the billing type. This should be set early in the project and will have an effect on the addresses shown and billing calculations, especially if you have the design and purchasing version. In the middle are the key dates for the project, some of which appear on the reports. Below this are percentages and rates like markup, taxes, and freight estimates that affect how extended totals are calculated. These are automatically copied to specifications and can be overridden if needed on each specification. For that reason, these are also best set early in the project. However, if you change them, the system will give you several options as to how to apply the change to existing specifications. Finally, on the right are the two project addresses that can be used to override the default addresses on the client screen. Generally, we recommend that you always enter the project shipping address here so that changes to a large client do not unexpectedly affect all project shipping addresses. It is less critical to enter a project billing address unless you are using the design purchasing version and invoices are to be sent to the property instead of the owner. Two functions that are especially useful on the project screen are its clone command and the export-import combination. The clone command creates a complete copy of a project. This can be used to initialize a project from either a similar past project or from a prototype project that contains common pre-built elements like guest rooms. The other function is FF&EZ's ability to export a project in the form of a specially formatted file that can then be emailed or transferred to another FF&EZ system. The receiving system would use the add command and then the import option to import this file, and that system would recreate all the information, including client and vendors, needed for the project. This capability is used by salespersons to send projects to a home office and purchasing management firms to process FF&EZ related projects designed elsewhere. In the next segment, we'll cover the editing screens for project contents.